Before going to Helios implementation, let's follow some standards like exception handling and uh, what should be response statuses when you create object, put an object, put a update an object, etc. Okay. Let's try by adding an exception class first. Let's add an exception handler. Okay, so let's here we have the package called exception controller, and then in here I will add a class called custom error. Okay, custom error, right? And in this error object I will yeah, in this error object I will add several variables like http status and then http status code string http status phrase, right? And then private custom string, right? Custom error code, and then private string custom error message, and then private object error details, then add private string path, private timestamp, JavaScript timestamp equals timestamp dot value of equal to time dot now. Okay, so we got this is our error DTO. So whenever there's an exception, we throw this DTO. We throw an exception, custom exception with this DTO in it. Okay. Now let's add getters and setters first. Select all getters and setters. We got all getters and setters. Let's add some controllers. Controllers using. So let's add no argument controller. Right now there is no argument controller. Yeah, we got our no argument controller here. Alright, and then we add no argument constructor, and let's add constructors with fields. Let's add with just with http status code first. And let's add with just with the custom error message. Let's add one more with status code, custom error code, right? And then let's add one more with error details also. Let's add one more with error details. Yeah, so we got all the constructors necessary, right? So we need one more thing every time. Yeah, we can set that in the get mapping itself. So let's set some defaults, right? http status dot internal server error. Okay, and for this phrase, http phrase, let's add this is custom get method for this get http phrase. So dot get reason phrase. So we got our giving a warning. So instead of here, let's add this directly inside the constructors, right? So we will add this dot http reason phrase equals dot get reason phrase. There's no http. Yeah, we need the same thing here. Yeah, we got everything here for our custom error DTO. And then now let's create a class. Now let's name it as custom response exception. Custom response exception, right? And here I will just extend this custom response exception to line time exception. Alright, so now let's add this here version ID, and then let's add private custom error, and then let's add getters and setters for this. Right, and then let's add a constructor here, constructors using superclass. We got all these constructors in this. You can use these also, no problem. And we add constructor using field, right? So we got constructor using our error object. So Now let's create a REST controller device that will handle all the exceptions for us, that all the custom exceptions that we throw. So let's create a class here, CustomExceptionHandler. So let's annotate it this with REST controller advice, and then let's write an annotation exception handler. So this exception handler is for custom exception handler class, right? And then let's create a public method. So this method will return a response entity, and here exception handler. Let's name it custom exception handler. Let's import this. So this is custom response exception, our class. So response exception, and then now in this response class, in this custom exception handler method, we will accept the object of this, and then CRE, let's enter CRE, and then we will get CRE get error, right? Dot set. We didn't set anywhere the path, so we will set the path here. To set the path of the API, we will first get the HTTP servlet request object, servlet request, HTTP servlet request object, and then we get the get servlet path, right? This will add the path, set the path to this error object, and then we finally return the response entity, dot status. We will add the status. We get the status from here, from this error object, dot get HTTP status dot, in the body we add custom response exception and dot get error. Alright, this is your exception handler. Now let's try this exception handler, right? So there are two ways to handle your exception. Actually, there are many ways to handle your exceptions in Java. I will show you how to handle exception using your this REST controller advice, okay, creating a custom exception handler, and then I will show you how to write simple online code to throw an exception. So let's see, go to controller. I will show you both ways. And here in the get mapping, okay, I have not written get by ID, so let me add a get by ID mapping, get mapping. So get mapping for ID should be like this. Save, right? So let's ID we got find by ID. Okay, we accept the ID of the student, and then we just get the record directly. So find by ID, we return the student object, right? So return the student object. Let's write one more method that is for find by name, right? So in this I will write a search, and then instead of path variable I will write at request param. Okay, so URL parameters, I will accept URL parameters of first name here, and then I will take a string. It's named as first name, find by first name. Okay, now find by first name here again, first name. Now let's create both of these methods. Create one method is created in the service interface. Now let's create both of these methods here also. Yeah, so we got it, and then find by ID is simple. Get by ID is deprecated, so you can use find by ID. Alright, find by. So we will just create a student object here, student, and equals find by ID, and that's it. We got a student here. Student is an optional object, or change it to this returns an optional student. So let's check if there is student optional student. Name it optional student dot is present, or let's check for is empty. Okay, if it is empty, we will throw an error of 404. So let's throw an error here. I will show two ways. First, I will show you how to use response status exception. You don't need anything. You don't need any custom exception handlers. You don't need any error details, etc. You just need this response status exception. You just use a new object to create construct a response status exception object, and then add HTTP status dot not found. That's it. See, this is as simple as that. Okay, if this statement doesn't get executed, that means that this optional student object has a student object in it. So we will just do get, and this will return our student by ID. And similarly, we will do find by ID here. So we will just copy and paste this here. right? And here instead of this we will do find by first name, right? So first name, and there's no method here, so we will just create it, right? We got a student object here, so we got a student object. It can be null, right? So let's check if it is null. Student, if student is null, then we throw an exception. Now this time we throw an exception using our class, our custom exception handler, right? And see, to do this we will just create first let's create our custom error object, okay? And let's use new keyword to construct our object, and here we will set HTTP status code and error details, custom error code. Yeah, I guess yeah, let's add one more method, one more constructor in this custom error, just with HTTP status code and just custom error message generate. So we got this, so save, and then we go back and then HTTP status code and custom error message, and here HTTP status, what do you put? Status put not found, okay, not found, and then for error message we give student not found for first name, alright. So now we throw this exception, we throw our new custom response exception. In this response exception we provide the error object. Yeah, this is how we throw. And nothing find the first name, this can return list of students, so let's make it as list, right? And then let's make it as list of student. Let's change the return type to list, and then yeah, here we check for student is null or is empty. Then we change the return type of our interface, and then similarly we change the return type of our control method also. Yeah, that's it. Now let's see how this error handling works. Start the server, let's initialize some users, or we can actually check. Right, let's add one user here. Actually we added one user with ID 1, and let's try to get localhost students and try to get this user by ID. So let's see if it can get. Okay, in this local, right, so we got, but what about if it's not there by ID? Yeah, we add a different ID here. Let's try this. So we got an exception. See, not found. We were throwing this custom response exception directly in here for this find by ID service IMPL method. Here you can see that here we have this find by ID. We threw the response status exception, but we don't want all this what do you say, all these traces here, right? So we will just add a couple of properties that will solve this problem. So let's go to application properties, and then let's set server dot error dot include exception. Let's make it to false. Then let's add some more dot include message never dot include stack trace never. Alright, let's restart the server. Yeah, now let's go back to Postman and create a request. Now we got a student object here, and now we again try to fetch object 1, student 1. So we got student 1, but for 3, let's see, this was a very clean response, but this is not our custom response exception. This is the Spring's response status exception. Okay, here it had timestamp, status, error path. Our custom response exception also had this, and with many other fields. So let's try that API. So our API, the API that we had that had custom exception return, it was search. So let's add first name with vice. Let's try, see what happened. Okay, so yeah, see, there is no object for first name vice, so we got not found. See, this error object had everything that you want, almost everything. If you want to put an object also, you can put it in your error details, right? So let's try with one. We got an object here for search also. So yeah, this is how you handle your exceptions in Spring REST APIs. In the next video, we will talk about cleaning the code a little bit, changing the return types to response entity, etc., and then finally implementing the ATOs to achieve Richardson Level 4 maturity of a web service.